episode of The Real Men of Real Estate, hosted by me, Thomas F. Chappell Jr. of the Black Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club, which is every third Wednesday of the month. We're virtual right now, so it starts at 6 p.m. on the west and 9 p.m. on the east. I'm here today with my very, very special guest mentor, Christina Suter. She is the organizer of the Phoebe Pasadena, which is for investors by investors. But before we get into that, I want to take a special time out to say I am going to dedicate this show to my mentors that passed, Mick Blackwell, Aaron Norris, as well as Jack Fullerton, coach, as we called him. Mm-hmm. And if you can be so kind, Christina, just to give us a little excerpt on how these men influenced your life before you go into who you are.
I would love to. I want to talk, I didn't know Mick nearly as well as you did, so maybe you can touch on Mick a little more. But Aaron Norris was incredibly dear to me. He was probably the closest. I'm going to say this, and God bless his soul, because I hope he feels this way back, or at least did in body. He was just one of those people. Every time I saw him, every time I talked to him, every time I interacted with him, he just felt like he was family. He felt like he was part of my soul family. He felt like he was just that dear to me. And as he got sick and he started moving through that path, which was really freaking hard, I just felt really included. And I felt he included everybody. He was Facebooking. He was sharing with everybody what was going on. But he was precious to me. Every time I went to a real estate event, if I saw him there, I felt like I was at home. He just had that presence about him. And I don't know if it was just a few of us, but honestly, everybody I talked to about Aaron, that's their take on him. He had just the most amazing heart and was just amazingly generous with his being and his welcoming and his kindness. He was just always that way. And Bruce, his dad, used to always talk about it. And Bruce was so proud of him. Just from the time he was a little boy, he would tell stories about how generous Aaron was, how kind he was, and how inclusive he was. So my thoughts go out to his dad and to his family.
Well, I appreciate that. So with that saying...
Can I talk about Jack? Can I hijack for a minute? Can I talk
about
Jack?
Go for it.
So Jack Fullerton, coach, he was always funny, always saying something inspiring, always off the cuff, always... I don't know, just Jack. And so the first time I ever met Jack, I was parked in a parking lot outside of the Orange County Phoebe meeting, and I was going to present that night. Jack was getting out of a very old car. I mean, like a classic car, but it was just old. Just saying. And he had this lovely lady who was driving him, and honestly, I don't remember her name. I just don't. But I remember going, he's like, oh, hey, are you going to the real estate meeting? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to the real estate meeting. He's like, oh, yeah, I'm going too. And I'm like, oh, that sounds really great. You're going to the real estate meeting. That's really great. Why are you going? He says, oh, I'm new to real estate. I'm going to be learning. I'm here to learn. Now, if you know anything about Coach was in real estate probably 40 years previous to me being in real estate. Which is like, seriously, I've been in real estate for 35 years, so maybe 40 is an exaggeration. But he's been in real estate for a very long time. And we started talking, he's like, oh, are you going to go there to be, at the meeting? And da-da-da. I said, well, actually, I'm presenting. He's like, oh, that's so great. I'm so glad you're presenting. I look forward to learning from you. And I said, oh, that's great. Why don't you tell me your name? And he says, I'm Jack Fullerton. And I went, what? You're Jack Fullerton? You ain't going to learn anything from me tonight, Jack. I should be learning from you. That's how humble he was. He was always that humble, always that kind, always that gracious. Jack's telling me he's going to learn from me. I don't think so, babe. He's not going to learn anything from me.
So, with that in mind, you said you've been in the business for 35
years. Yeah.
Okay.
You can add another 5, but that's just making me 5 years older there, Thomas.
Okay, so tell people about yourself real quick. Who you are, where you come from, and things like that.
Sure. So, name's Christina Suter. I run the For Investors by Investors Club in Pasadena. We have 2 meetings a month, one multifamily, one focused on real estate as a whole. And I'm a real estate investment advisor. I work with people on designing their real estate portfolio literally from the top down. I'm a fee-based advisor. And it really has to do with, I love working with my clients. I'll say this on air. I don't make the bulk of my income from being a consultant. I really don't. I make the bulk of my income from being a professional investor because that's what I've done. I stopped working in about 2000 was when I became a full-time investor. And I've had good times, and I've had some really bad times. And I can talk about either one that you want to talk about. But I'm still investing in real estate 35 years later. I'm still teaching about it. I still run my clubs. I'm still deep in the community. I still think real estate is a amazingly approachable, useful, high return investment that you can have in your portfolio. I know lots of people where 80% of their portfolio is in real estate. And I advise with people on how to use real estate to their highest leverage.
Okay, so when you was a kid, did you ever think you would be in real estate, or is that something else that you wanted to do?
No, I think I'd be in real estate. I thought I'd be a therapist.
Okay. Wow.
I did. I thought I'd be a therapist.
What type of therapist?
Just a marriage, family therapist, an MFT.
Oh, so you was going to mess people's minds.
Excuse me. Excuse me here, Thomas. No, I was going to help them sort out what was in their mind. And I still do a lot of therapy, a lot of personal growth work, a lot of spiritual work. I'm still very deep in that field, but I am not a therapist. I thought I'd be a therapist until my brother said to me one day, well, if you want to be a therapist, you have to get a PhD. And I went, I ain't that smart. I ain't going to get a PhD in order to be a therapist. So I said, well, I guess I better come up with something else. So I got a bachelor's in business. And then later I went back and I got a master's in psychology. I did later. But that was after I had already defined myself as a consultant.
Okay. So I'm going to say something. I don't know if you want to talk about it, but I know that you and I got something in common.
Sure.
I'm dyslexic and you're dyslexic
Absolutely.
as well.
Yeah.
So talk about that real quick.
Well, now you understand my comment about I ain't that smart. I actually am pretty smart. I because I was diagnosed, right? Because I was actually in special ed schools back in second grade all the way through to the end of fifth, and then in sixth grade they put me in regular school. Not a good thing. I'm just saying, not a good thing to go from special ed, the kid on the, no, I went from being in a very loving environment where I learned 8 years of math in 3 years, 5 years of reading, and 3 years of spelling in 3 years. Because that's about as good as spelling was ever going to get. And it's still about that good. It hasn't gotten any better. I'm just saying. My spelling still sucks. But being in sixth grade was just not good. I was the kid from the loser bus. And I was treated that way for a lot of years. And honestly, it made me better. And maybe it's because of all the personal growth work I've done, but I'm just saying, it made me better. It made me better because I understood what it's like to not be the one on the winning side all the time. I understood what it's like to start really tough, to really understand it takes a lot of work to grind your way into being successful. It takes time, it takes focus, it takes dedication, and it takes self-care. So if you're somebody who's like, oh, yeah, well, I was, blah, blah, blah. I was in the special ed school, or, my parents, hit me. My mom wasn't always the kindest, so I'm just throwing that out there, too, for those of us who are, coming from tough homes. It's not a good excuse. And if you're using it as an excuse, don't. Because the only person paying the price of the unhappiness is you.
Exactly.
You got to move forward anyways, because you got a spot in this world to fulfill. Fulfill your spot, and you get to be happy.
Amen.
And dyslexia is not an excuse.
Well, see, like I tell people, I am too far in the ocean to swim back. I have to get to the other side. I need to see what's on the other side. It's just like Peter walking on the water, I got to get on the other. I got to keep myself focused and not look around and the shark's going to come and get me, things like that. Because I know when people want to start their own business, it's a very challenging thing.
It is.
And a lot of people look at, where's my next meal? Where's my next income come from? And then I break down to them the book that everybody talks about, which is Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
And I asked them, I said, now, what did you get out of it? And they says, well, what I got out of is mindset, this, that, and the other. I said, well, have you ever listened to this? He indicated that his dad was educated poor. Now, what does that mean? Which means his dad got a PhD, which means that there's no other degree above a PhD.
Right.
So to me, that means his dad capped out.
Okay.
Which means he could not make any more money past a PhD.
So past what a PhD can make.
Exactly.
That's right. Yep, because he was in that track. He was on the working track. I'm a PhD. I'm a professor. This is what I do. this is the track I'm
So
on, and there's a top to that.
when you talk about, like the rich dad where he had to learn systems and income streams, that's what learning and doing and also being in your own space is all about. Obtaining the information that you get. Okay, I'm dyslexic. Okay, so I'm not going to use that as a crutch. I'm going to go surpass that and become better than that. I'm going to work harder so I can be able to get there. So it's like, yeah, I did get my own personal PhD, but not the way the system has set it up,
System is set up.
but the way I set it up. Even if it took me 15 years, I did it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm proud of the fact that I did that. So when you say that, as you got older going in towards high school, what started you, what career were you looking at when you was in high school before you got into real estate?
Okay, so I got a bachelor's in business, and then I double backed and I got a teacher's credential. So I was going to be an elementary school teacher. And then I realized I couldn't make the difference with the kids I wanted to as an elementary school teacher, because the biggest influence on a child's life is their parents. And that's why I doubled back and got the master's in psychology.
Okay. We're going to take a commercial break real quick. We're going to come back with our special guest, Christina. She's going to continue on that. Thank you for listening to the Men of Real Estate.